In this video, I'm going to share a bit about buying land with outline planning. I've been asked a few questions, so I'll cover those in the hope that you benefit. So the first question is thinking about which location to choose, and this is quite important because obviously location determines pretty much everything. And one of the things about location is if you're looking to get a site with full planning, you could sell it to a housing association. So depending on the area it's in, they might have a keen interest in that. You could do a joint venture with them as well, where they'll fund the build cost. So that makes it really easy for you, or you can build it out for them and then they'll buy it from you. On the other side, of course, location is important because you can then work out what the sale proceeds are per square foot, how much the land is costing you per square foot to buy, and how much the land is worth per square foot after planning, and then how much it's going to cost you to build a house per square foot. And those prices vary depending on the finish and the size, but the location is going to determine a lot of those things in terms of how much money you've got to spend and what you're going to get as the outcome. So make sure you're clear on what the value of properties is in that particular location. Linked with that, of course, is who your ideal customer is, or who you're looking to sell to, because obviously if you're looking to build high-end houses, then they need to be in a location where there's a demand for high-end houses, where people want to live in high-end houses. There's no point in you building £500,000 houses in an area where there's £100,000 houses, because that area doesn't have that kind of demand. Whereas obviously if there's other houses worth £500,000 to £750,000, and then you're building those houses, they're going to be a nice fit. So knowing who your customer is enables you to do that. But if you're going to rent them out, then again you need to know who your specific tenants are to focus on those tenants stroke customers or buyers. Then of course you've got the size of the land. With that comes obviously the density. Again, depends on whether you're buying land as a speculative deal with an option agreement, or whether you're buying it with outline planning. If it's got outline planning, then there's pretty much the council have determined how many units you can get on there. You then got to obviously go through the full detailed planning or the reserved matters to finalize things, and obviously have different house types and designs, and then you change the sizes depending on how many there are for 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, possibly even 5 or 6 bedroom, depending on what's been agreed. And alongside that, obviously there's the section 106 requirement and the affordable housing requirement, so you'll have to agree all of those things as well. Although if you've got deep outline planning, those things would have been agreed in principle anyhow. So once you know that, you can then work out the cost of the land. In the good old days, you use a third for the land, a third build cost, and a third profit. It doesn't quite work like that nowadays. I see developers usually working on anywhere from like a 18 to 25% margin. Sometimes they go lower. I've even seen people make it work on 15%. It just depends how the deal looks like, but I'd say work on a minimum 20% return. That makes sense, and then you can work backwards on an appraisal, and I run everything through an appraisal sheet just to make sure that the numbers stack up, and that very quickly tells me whether it's worth investing more time on looking at a deal or not, because sometimes you just end up wasting your time. So you've got to have those details there. The particular piece of land that I'm kind of talking about here is one that I purchased with outline planning, and we had a conditional agreement. We paid nothing to exchange, but we exchanged contracts on the condition that we would get detailed or outline or full planning. Now of course, once you've got outline planning, you're going to get detailed planning anyway, but I wanted that extra time just to make sure that we get the detailed planning. That went through. That took 9 months in total. Should have taken about 5 months, but the local authority in this particular case took a lot longer. They had 5 extensions in between from when they said they would initially come back to us to when they actually did. So these things take time. Planning always takes a lot longer than it should do, and that's something that you should obviously have in your plan, because it's going to take longer than it should do. Obtaining full planning or going through reserved matters wasn't that onerous a process. The planning department were pretty good, in fairness to them. They wanted some further details on a few bits of like the access and the drainage, which we were able to sort out. But once you've got outline planning, that makes it really easy, or makes it easier. And if you're buying land without planning, remember, it's speculative. You could obviously do a pre-app. That doesn't guarantee you'll get planning, but it gives you a very good indication of which way the planning officer and department are looking to go. And if that doesn't work well, then don't go ahead. And of course, the good thing about a pre-app is it's a private process. Nobody knows you've been through it, but it gives you a good indication. Once you go for full planning, then it becomes a public process. It's on the council's planning portal and everybody can see what's going on. So feel free to do pre-apps just to see what's going on. And again, depending on the size of the development, you can get a pre-app done for between 3 to 5 grand by using an architect who you know. And then their bonus, of course, is that if the pre-app's positive, you'll then give them the work for the full planning application. So they'll look after you and hopefully do a good deal for you. On this particular site, we've got planning for 40 houses. The section 106 cost is £245,000. The affordable housing limit was 15%. So 6 houses are for section 10. So 6 houses are for affordable housing. So it's a good scheme and it works well. The margins are good. The GDV on that is just over 7 million, and if we sell the land with full planning, we'll pretty much double our investment. If we build it out, we'll quadruple the investment, and the profit on the build is 20%. So 20% of 7.5 million gives you 1.5 million pounds. That's excluding finance costs. So finance costs, just put in 300 grand, so still a margin of 1.2 million pounds. Pretty good going, I think. The planning process, like I said, should have taken 6 months, but took an extra 5 months on top of that. To build the houses, I've been quoted 18 months, although I think they'll probably take them 20 or 21 months, so you can get the houses ready within a year and a half to 21 months, which is good going. You can try and sell them, some of them off plan, and it works well. So within 3 years, you can build the houses and sell pretty much all of them. You should do it quicker than that, but 3 years end to end, whole job done, works really well. Once you've got outline planning, then trying to change the number of properties isn't going to work, because the council's already agreed in principle how many properties go on there. You can reduce the density. You're not going to be able to increase it that easily, and it's going to take you too much time and too much hassle. It's not even worth thinking about. So just go with what's there already. And then what do you do with the properties once they're built? Well, that's something to think about. Do you sell them? Do you hold on to them? That's a choice you should make at the start. You can change your mind obviously down the road, but partly depends on the economic climate as well. Partly depends on can you get funding. I prefer to hold on to them, so refinance, pull all my money out, then put them on rent. I have a capital appreciating asset and I've created cash flow. Makes sense. And obviously if I sell them, I've got to pay tax, and if it's still a limited company, you're paying corporation tax. If I'm just refinancing, no tax to pay, so that's an extra 19% saving, so to speak, because I've not really made the saving, but I've not sold, so therefore I've not have to pay the tax. So that's why I keep the properties, not just because I don't want to pay the tax. It's not about not wanting to pay the tax. It's about why pay the tax and sell the properties when you can keep the properties, create income, and have an asset that appreciates in value and obviously gives you cash flow. It makes sense to keep them as far as you can, but every deal is different and circumstances are different. So you might want to sell some of them. Your business model might be to sell all of them. Depends what you do. Like I said, I keep them all, but work out the numbers on both scenarios and see what works well, and then you can do a hybrid. Keep some, sell some as well. In terms of the structure, best to use an SPV, limited company, buy it in there, and then do all of the work through that. If you hold on to it, obviously the rental income goes into the company. If you sell it, the company has to pay corporation tax on the profits, and then if you draw the money out, you've got to pay income tax on that. If you're only doing a one-off development, or it's your last development, then you can do a voluntary solvent liquidation and claim entrepreneurs relief and get up to £1 million if you haven't used that in the past, and only add to your company and only pay 10% tax. Anything above that, then you've got to pay 20% tax. So it works really well.